I went there in 78 as a manager, and I stayed there 5 years. I'd previously to that been to Bisham and got the majority of the coaching badges that I needed to coach at a top level. And I'd been involved with two former Northampton managers at Spencer, both Brian Harvey and John Clark, I knew very well. So when I went to Bisham, I was actually at Spencer. So in 78, Cogenhoe asked me if I'd go there, and they were in the Central Com at the time, and they were just finding their feet in the Prem Division. So I went along, and I stayed 5 years, and we had an amazing amount of success. We got 13 trophies in 5 years. And in 83, I left to start my business, which I've been in there ever since. And at that time in 83, they spoke to Compton Estate and got the ground where they are currently. And many things happened to me in that period of time where I was at the Cobblers, I had my own soccer schools, I did all sorts of things. But in 1999, I went back to the club because it was pretty much finished. And I'd got people there who knew and said, would I go in? So going in as a custodian, if you like, and a benefactor, it was important that I kept the club going. Within that period of time, COVID was a big problem. And we got all new fencing, all floodlights, all new machinery, a brand new lease, moved the cricket off, which was a bit of a hard move, and they never thanked me for it. But where the club is now, it's better.
Yeah.
And the 4 or 5 years I was there, it became, how can I explain? It was like a candle. It was like this burning light at the top, which was the UCL Prem team, and nothing else. There was no reserves in the end. There was no youth team. Nobody wanted to contribute to the club. And there was probably 7 or 8 volunteers, as they called themselves. And they did a bit, but nowhere near enough. I was doing raffles for Christmas. I was doing hospitality. I was doing absolutely everything. And whilst I had the time, it was sort of all right. But as my business kicked off even more, and there was health issues in the family, we couldn't do it as a family. We couldn't do it. We couldn't be chairman, treasurer, hospitality. We couldn't do it all. This is just 1, 2 people. So I'd said to them that I was going to stand down. I also wrote a letter to the league and said I was going to stand down. And because there was no help forthcoming, it was the inevitable. That's what I had to do. So I tried to sell the lease because there were 17 years left. And there was various people, you may know them, have spoken to me. I did speak to the Cobblers, I spoke to Cobblers ladies, I spoke to other football clubs, ground share, and nothing really could fit. There was a couple of people that the volunteers, let's call them, wanted to bring into the club, and they're miserly figures. When there was 10 grand in the bank, somebody offered me 2 grand, take it or leave it. And it just wouldn't work in the end. And I said to them, look, I'll give you some money, but I don't want to be this person who's just funding football. Because I'm perfectly honest, because I run a business, it came to a point where I didn't really just want to be giving a manager his budget, and how he used that budget was down to him, but they took money out of it as coaches, but that's their choice. So I didn't really want to be doing that, especially when you'd pay somebody 50 quid or 100 quid and somebody else down the road would offer them 150 to 100. So in the end, it wasn't about me. If I wanted to compete, the club wanted to compete at the financial level, although I could afford it, I didn't want to do it. So at the end of the year, it was an ultimate decision that I didn't want to put the money in. I would help, but I wouldn't put money in just for the sake of it. And I said to the volunteers, the only way I can really see this going forward is if you play at a lesser level. So if you go into the Central Com, you get a different type of footballer. They'll come, they'll play. They won't be money driven. They're going to spend the time in the bar. It's a whole different animal, and they wouldn't do it. It had to be Premier UCL football or nothing. And it came to a point where one day they just wrote a letter to me and said, "We're all walking out. The keys are in your letterbox." And then I got a phone call from the league saying that I'm ultimately responsible for the fact that they'd registered in Premier League, Reserve League, Youth League, FA Cup, FA Vars. Now, they hadn't had a reserve team the year before, and they hadn't had a youth team the year before. So why they suddenly felt with no money they could go and do that, I don't know. So that's the unfortunate situation that we all found ourselves in. And the club is going strong. We've got a number of youth teams now. In some ways, the envy of a lot of clubs. And there's a committee that run it, but it's not as a board. So I'm not all things to all people anymore. There's a lot of volunteers. There's a lot of money being generated, a lot of teams being generated, good coaches. And what I have now is a big base, or it will be a big base. And from a big base, it's like a triangle. We'll get a high peak. There'll be a high apex. Instead of that candle that was glowing at the top that kept blowing out because there was no money going in, or it fell over because there was no support, we'll now have a big base with a high apex. And that might take 2 or 3 years, to be honest, Jordan, but the club as a business stands up now where it didn't before. And they're not relying on me to be not only a custodian for the club, which I'm happy to be, but I'm not happy to be a benefactor, just lining people's pockets, footballers, who come and have a Lucozade Sport and go and get changed with beatboxes going on all around me. And at the end of the day, when their game's finished, they just walk out, get in the car and go. I don't particularly want to support that.
No, so just backtrack a bit there. So it was that way. Obviously, how it all ended. Just touch on that, because obviously there's a lot of speculation online. I don't want to go into too much of it, but people were saying that, like, the team was strong. Obviously, they'd set the team up for the season coming. And
I had no evidence of that, and it was no concern of mine because I'd already said that I wasn't chairman for that year. But you
wasn't chairman for that year?
No, I wasn't. Hence the fact that I refused to pay the fines.
Yeah.
I wrote to the league and told them I was standing down. So if people don't listen and then they go on regardless, then that's not my fault. What they did with Biff, I don't know. Maybe they promised him that, and he promised them. But talk's cheap. You'd only know if you've got a good team once you start playing your matches.
Yeah. So obviously the club, so they put out a statement. I think I've got the date here. It was the 28th of June. That's when they pulled out the league. That was the same date.
They pulled out the league. Yeah.
So who was that when you say they? The first team.
Well, it wasn't a team, was it? It was a bunch of people who were part of a committee that decided to make that decision.
Right. Okay. But obviously, you stepping down before that, surely there must have been some sort of committee meeting to elect a new chairman.
Yeah,
was that not the case?
Yeah, it's all done. It's all in writing. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that meeting go? Who was elected? Was anyone elected, or
did no one fancy it? It was a guy called Mick Nash.
Yeah.
And I've got the minutes of it. It's all there. Hence the fact that the league had no remit, they had no opportunity in the end to find me.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, to be honest, I can't elaborate on this anymore. It is what it is, and everything I've said is true. I've no reason to lie or fabricate it or give you misquotes or anything. I've told you exactly what it is, and I don't really care what any of them have said. There's a lot of water gone under the bridge, and me and my family had to take all the comments and remarks that were made on Facebook, which if I wanted to, I could have took that further. So there's a lot of bad feeling now come from it. So I just feel better that it's left and the football club is surviving well, and it will continue to survive because we're starting in the correct manner now. We're starting at the bottom and working up. You can't start at the top and work down. You're an engineer, you would know that, So I'm not teaching you anything you don't know. But I run a successful business, and I know it couldn't go on the way it was unless I just continued to just throw money at it. And I'd already said to them I didn't want to do that. And it just wasn't the money. It was the fact there was nobody. You can have a committee, but unless somebody becomes a secretary and a treasurer, then you can't do it. And the secretary already put it in writing. He didn't want to work with me. So suddenly you've got a chairman, but you haven't got a secretary and you haven't got a treasurer. And the person who was a benefactor has said already that I didn't want to continue. So really the writing was on the wall for them.
Yeah. Could it not have been put out to I mean, because it's a well-supported club, isn't it, around the local area? I mean, was there not enough people? I mean, it's people's livelihoods. Obviously, they go there every day, watch every game. I'm not saying it's these people, but other fans from a further afield around Cogenhoe as well.
How many people do you think turned up to a game?
I've been there before when there's been sort of 100, and that's on multiple occasions, maybe a few more.
Well, if you take it from me, and I oversaw it, the times we had 100 paying people there would probably be once or twice a year, if that.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I spent a bit of time there, obviously. No, I'm not going to say I was there every week because I wasn't, but I've been there on multiple occasions when there was big crowds there. Not big crowds, but big figures and obviously, I mean, it was a great place for the youth events as well. In the summer, you had all the finals as well. But what I was getting at with that last point was obviously you have got people that go there week in, week out. Would they not be sort of people that would step up and sort of take a role in the club?
I don't think so. We asked on many occasions, and if you had more than 7 helpers, and the majority of those would be in their 70s or 80s.
Fair enough, yeah. So obviously you have started again, the club, you say?
No, that's not true. We're not started again. We didn't stop.
No, okay, sorry, yeah. But it's still going then. So what's that? Is it just youth teams? Have you got a first team? Is there plans for a first team?
Not in the immediate future, no. We'll probably spend some time doing up the facilities so that we can offer the community somewhere to go to build a business outside the football. So when it comes to it, the two can grow harmoniously together. And then one day, if we need to go into a level of football that we have to fund it, then the money will be there. It's no good going with, you can't possibly have this dream of trying to put a team out with no money behind it. So if you have a business, then the business has to support whatever you do. So I'm not saying it will be in the next year or so. We'll just have to see. Even doing a youth team, you end up losing money on it. A lot of the people who come and watch it don't want to pay because they're parents or relations. You've got to do your floodlights. The officials are probably 150 quid. Then you've got to do all your food. So I think a lot of people, and this isn't disrespectful to you, but a lot of people don't know how much it costs to run junior football. And it does, at that level, step 5, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And remember, as somebody once told me from the FA, Waggy, you're punching above your weight. Now, if you consider Cogenhoe a little village and you consider Wellington down the road, or Daventry, or Rugby, if they can't make that work, then there's something wrong compared to what Cogenhoe was.
So I remember, I've been reading back on the previous posts, not the comments as such, but your own post, and you did share the resignation post from the league, claiming that you're looking to sort of pass the club on. Is that still the case, or are you happy what you're doing now and you're moving forward with the club?
Well, it was a desire at the time to move it on, but because it's a limited company by share, so if I could sell it, but there's the people who own the land, the estate, that they would want me to pass on a person, and I would have to do my due diligence on that sale. And if it was just subletting it, I would be totally responsible. And all circumstances, like I said previously, when there's 10 grand in the bank and somebody says, take it or leave it, it's 2 grand, I don't think that's the right person to run a football club.
No, it's not financially. It's not going to be beneficial for anyone, is it? That sort of deal.
So I think I've done the right thing. And when you consider all the people in the village and all the children in the village and surrounding areas have got a football club to go to now. Now, I'm not going to name names, but when the previous people were there was 2 things they didn't want. They'd tried girls' football and they said that didn't work. And they also said to me that youth football doesn't work because the parents are not interested in supporting the club. And they just come, get in their cars, go down the bottom, watch their kids play and drive out again. Now, that's not the case anymore. That's not the case. We've got parents who are helping build a new kitchen, do changing rooms down the bottom for the kids. It's a whole different aspect of how the club is now. Now, the people there before didn't want youth football. I do want youth football.
Do you think it's a case that they didn't want it, or is it just they're inexperienced in it? Like you say, you've bought that now. Could that not have been bought before?
Well, I think the people who I keep saying to you, they're in the 70s, and they weren't really like me. I go out on a Thursday night, take them to goals and train them. I go every Saturday and train my kids at under 8s as borrowers, and I've coached kids for many, many years. So my affinity and my love for football, that's where I want it to go. And I can see the benefits now of the children and the parents. It's a resurgence of the club. It's like a phoenix, if you want. It didn't die, but it struggled and it's lost its wings and they got broken, but they're okay now. They just learn to fly again.
Yeah. So is that the previous people that were there? They didn't know how to do it then, or they just weren't interested in the youth football.
Well, I think unless your mind is refreshed and you've got a desire and an aim to do something, if all you're concerned about 100% totally is going and watch Premier UCL football, then what's going on elsewhere probably is not that big a concern to them. And if they look out the window and the cars don't stop and they drive by, probably got every right to feel miffed. But you've got what we've got now is growing the business, growing the children's youth football, and anybody who comes and plays against us or anybody who comes and joins us, they're refreshed for what we're trying to do. Not forgetting that with John Barnwell, Paul Curtis and others, Barry Hancock, who's at the Cobblers, and you can speak to Barry if you want, we actually set up the academy around about 1995 at the Cobblers. And from that, it's now, it was a centre of excellence that we started, and it's now the academy. So we started at Road School, and that's how it all started. Barnwell was the manager at the time. So I know what youth football is all about, and I try my hardest to work with the kids and make them better players. That's all I ever ask for. If I can help them become better players, whatever level and height they achieve, that's not really the matter. The fact is they'll become better, and they become better children and grow up into be better adults. And that's what I was trying to do. Now, if you've got people around you who are not really bothered, and make it quite clear they're not bothered, they're only interested in the Premier UCL, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But you've got to go and find the money for what you want.
Yeah. Surely they would have seen it that way. Look, the Premier League UCL team is not bringing in the funds that you need. And, this is another avenue where you can generate that money.
What I said at the beginning of this conversation, in October 1999, when I started, they were finished.
Who the youth team was finished?
No, the club.
The club was finished.
Yeah. So I went along and tried to do what I did, and there's a period of time, and it all that's happened is that 4.5, 5 years later, when I made that decision, it sort of ended up back where it was. But I was never going to let that happen, so we've carried on. Nothing's changed. The same people were there, and they've had 4.5 years of me looking after them and keeping the club going at the best level, not forgetting that Biff did well to get them to a Senior Cup final.
That's what I mean. I'll go back to the first team, but they've had some great memories over the last sort of 30 years, haven't they? Where, great FA Cup
memories don't pay bills, do they?
No, of course, but surely, I mean, everyone around there wanted to build on that, and them
But
great
there
days.
wasn't enough people. There was nobody came forward. There was talk is cheap, and when I'll just give you evidence of what some people wanted to do. And the club's fine now. I don't know why there's interrogation. The club's fine.
I'm not interrogating. I'm just obviously trying to answer some questions about where it ended and why,
Well, I've given you the answers.
I know you have, but what I say, everyone wants to see this club in the UCL, don't they?
Well, it
I
ain't going
know.
to happen. It's not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen because they're not in the UCL now, and they'd have to start right down to the lowest level. So it ain't going to be. It's not going to go in the UCL.
Not at all. Not in the future.
Well, I can't. I've already said to you that we're adopting the formula we are, and it's a lot stronger. It's better than it's been for a long, long time. So there's an opportunity. I wouldn't say never,
No,
but it's what the current board of directors want to happen, and they're essentially all youth supporters or parents of the youth.
yeah. So, I mean, your current board of directors now, are you saying it could happen in the long term future? There must be a long term goal there that you're trying to get to as a club. I know your focus is youth at the minute, but there must be a long term strategy for the club.
No, the long term strategy is that we carry on with the children and we grow their number of teams or their opportunities. We try and coach them better. We try and look after them. And there's various age groups. 13 is always a different year. The 15s are struggling. They're losing players because the better Santos at mid-season are trying to get all their players. So they're struggling. Spencer was struggling, so we've had to merge with them to keep Spencer going and ours. So there's a lot of trials and challenges through the year, and it's being run properly. So whatever we're trying to do, they're trying to make the facilities better. Everything's going in the right direction. But it'd be very silly if I sat here and went, "Oh, another 5 years we'll be in the UCL." That's impossible to say.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that obviously another 5 years, but I mean, long term could be, a long term plan could be in 5 years. We're going to start a men's team, whether it be at the bottom of the leagues or what, and work it up.
It
But
depends if there's enough interest for it, doesn't it? It depends. I could let that pitch in that ground out tomorrow. But to what point again? What support will I get from them? We need to ingrain what we've got and show them what supporting the club's all about. I mean, Chenix is a prime example. What a good club that is. And the rugby and the football, certainly the rugby, as soon as the guys have finished playing, there's 5 or 6 of them at every team coaching. And it's the same with the football. A lot of the guys who played there go back with their children and coach them. Great club. Great club. So, and that's why a lot of you look at Chenix, they go up and down, and then you look at a team and they're doing really well. And, they've never been known for throwing a load of money around, but they get good players. Great club.
that's what I'm getting at. Obviously, the biggest, I know I keep going back to the first team, but the biggest earner at Chenix is their first team, isn't it? That brings the crowds in, that brings the players in, and
well, not really. How many youth teams have you got that supports that?
Yeah, they've got plenty of youth teams. I'm in amongst one now, but I wouldn't say we bring masses of money into.
Didn't say you did. It's about
No, but that's what I'm saying.
It's about the commitment of parents. I go there, and they've got kiosks where people look after the food, and I know at each age group you have to do a raffle, you do things, and the parents are part of the club. Totally different culture. You need that as your first layer, and once you get that, you can go on. But if you wanted a first team, you'd have to develop a strategy and a policy where you got through to 16s, and your 16s were good enough to go into a league that's going to then push them on to go into a stage of men's football. You can't just, it'd be pointless just going against all what we're trying to do. Just go and get a team and go, yeah, you can go be in my youth team. No, that's never going to happen at Cogenhoe at the minute. There's no desire with any of the parents to do that. We'll just grow organically, see where it takes us and respond to whatever that is. And I'm certainly not going to sit here and go, oh, in 5 years' time, we will have senior football. May never have senior football up there. May never. I mean, look at all the Santoses and all those. They don't even go down that route. As soon as they're 16, see you, lads. Let's get some more in.
I mean, that you sort of edging towards that then? Is that what you wanted?
No,
Sort of just get them into
no,
grown men and
no, I never said that either. What I'm saying is that's one way of doing your business with kids.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do it, I would like to see the kids grow, and if there's enough support from the parents, because you've got to go all through these different age groups when all sorts of things happen. You also got to go through the age group that, you're not winning and they want to go off and play for a better team. Lots of parents and kids go, oh, we want to go and play for and win trophies. And then that age group suffers. So I don't know what's around the corner. I've been doing it long enough to know there's lots of pitfalls, lots of things that could go wrong. And we'll find that maybe there'll be one really good age group that come through and you go, yeah. And then as long as people don't come and poach them and, Budbrook, perfect example. All the kids that were there, reserves first, never left. The Glennons and all those. Yeah, you couldn't get them away from there.
No,
perfect.
Top players as well,
all grew up as kids. And when they got there, they stayed around for a little while, but, they could go to Stanford, go to all these clubs. But if the people who got those kids together, looked after them, coached them, gelled them, I always say to my kids, and this is true because I've got loads of them, those who sadly haven't passed on, but the kids I played football with, those who are around the Northampton, still friends now when we grew as kids.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Obviously, yeah, you stay together, and then, like you say, yeah, with Budbrook it helps, doesn't it?
Perfect example.
Yeah. So how many sort of teams and kids have you got there now?
With the minis, there's about 6 or 7, I think, at the minute. But there's people knocking me door every day. Can I bring my team there? We haven't got enough pitches. And I could sit there and go, I'll take the money, thank you very much. It's not what I'm interested in. I want to just see as many teams. I want to walk around there in 2 or 3 years' time, probably when I can't coach, and I'll find it a bit of a chore to do it, and just look around and be proud of what we've all achieved.
No, so obviously it's a rebuilding thing. Obviously, the pitch itself then, is that not being used? It's just the pitches behind. Is that the case?
Well, there's lots of work we've got to do up there. As I said, we're going to alter the clubhouse, and while it's a building site, we can't play football around there. No. So that we have to take a list of priorities what we want to do. But the number of people who are supporting what we're doing, and like I gave you an example, going in doing up changing rooms down the bottom of there where there was never changing rooms before, particularly. And there's great spirit amongst a lot of the parents and the board, if you like, to go and do that. And while I can see that and that interest that's generated, then that will inspire lots of others coming in to go and do the same.